ARC STUDIO from IK Multimedia has just been launched today. Can a £300 room correction device stand up against the industry standard £4,000 Trinnov Nova? Let's find out. So this is the ARC STUDIO from IK Multimedia. It's based on their ARC correction software that they've been using for many years now. Up to ARC 4 as the latest version. And this is the DSP box that they've just released that essentially functions in a similar way to the Trinnov, where you simply put analog audio in and analog audio out and the correction happens within the box. So we just need to perform the calibration and see how this compares to the Trinnov now. All right, so we're going to go straight into the ARC 4 analysis software. It's a really nice hardware setup wizard, which I always really enjoy because you don't have to then read the manual. The ARC MEMS mic model is exactly what we're using for this. And here we go. This looks good as my input and output device. I've got my microphone connected to input channel 1 on my interface. Left and right are coming out from playback 1 and 2. Perfect. This page is basically going to define the kind of area that you want to be able to listen to. Wide area for 2 people, and if you've got guests sitting in a seat back there, it's going to ask you to take some measurements there. And indeed, maybe like a movie theatre and that kind of thing. I'm just going to do the standard studio monitor spot for this measurement. A little bit of description on where to put the microphone. So basically put it where your head is, using your ear as a reference height. So we've now got the ARC STUDIO wired up and in place, and now it's time to measure using the ARC MEMS measurement microphone. It's a very neat little unit. It's really light. Let's see how it measures and see what happens. So we're going to hit play test. That seems good. And you can see that's automatically detected the right input level for the microphone now, just by turning up the input level until it says it's good. This is a really good part to pay attention to. So you've got 2 options. You can do a quick measurement, which basically makes you measure 7 times. Or the more accurate one, which asks you to do 21 measurements. And I would always recommend this one, unless you're a person that's going to be moving your monitors around a lot. So the first layer needs to be 6 inches below ear level, approximately. It's fairly forgiving, and that's about right. So here we go. And then we move the mic to roughly where it should be as shown on the picture and go again. So here we've got the initial measurement that the ARC measurement software has taken. Very, very similar, I think, you'll find, to how the Trinnov actually did the measurement, with a couple of minor differences, but you'll see the general shape of the frequency curve is very similar. And indeed, this software can also show you what it expects to be able to give you as a response after as well, which largely is pretty flat, which is really nice. So you can grab these and make any changes you want. If you decide you really love 100 Hertz, you can give it a big boost there if you want, or anything like that. At any point you can hit reset and get yourself back to a flat curve. And indeed, there are a bunch of different kind of targets that are preset in here that you can play with, and custom ones that you can save. Furthermore, another cool little feature that is actually surprisingly good is the virtual monitoring. There's quite a lot of options, but you can go down to things like a smartphone and just get the idea of how your mix might sound coming through a smartphone. Or, the White 90s, which, is a very famous speaker that we all know about. Amongst many others, including some IK Multimedia models as well. Surprisingly useful, in the vein of Slate Audio's VSX headphones, where you can model different rooms and things you're in. And the first thing we're going to then see is the Trinnov setup wizard. There's loads of bits to go through that kind of describe the process and guide you through it, so by all means take the time to read them, but we're going to largely skip through until we get to this input source page. This allows you to choose where the audio is going to be coming from into the Trinnov. In this particular instance, I don't need multiple inputs to choose from, although I can do if I want to, but I'm just going to get rid of the ones I don't want. And I can leave analog there, and I can change that by clicking on that, and indeed the various different kind of multi-channel formats if I want. Next, it's going to be the speaker output, so I'm just going to leave that as speaker A. It's an analog output from the Trinnov I'm using. There are AES and Dante outputs as well if you want to. And again, the various multiple channel output formats. So we'll scroll through and we'll get through to naming the presets. I'm going to name this after the speakers we're using today, which are the head type 20s. And then it's going to say preset saved. Now that's created the preset file. The next thing I need to do is set up the calibration. And this is where I'm going to use the Trinnov measurement mic, the 3D mic that they offer with this product. So we're just going to hit calibrate and sit back and wait for it to do its thing. That's the calibration measurement done. And then finally we're going to hit compute down here to get the Trinnov to actually calculate the correction that needs to happen for the room. But before we do that, I'm just going to check on details and see here. Now, this is exactly what we're looking for actually. I've managed to place this microphone really well. Each speaker is at 42 degrees from the left and the right, which it's a nice even number there. Those two have matched really closely. If one was like 35 and the other was 50, then the angles are way off, and that's going to negatively affect our stereo image. The distance is really nice as well. They're within a centimetre of each other more or less, so that's actually a really nice initial reading. So let's go ahead and hit compute, and the computation's done. So now we just go over to next. It says congratulations, calibration completed. So now we can go and look at the fruits of our measurement by clicking on the graph. And here we can see up the top what the measurement that the Trinnov has taken is. We can see some pretty big peaks here, 42 Hertz of around 9 dB. A notch here. This is clearly an Allison effect kind of result, which is very common in most of the rooms we measure. And the rest of it is not too bad. Not brilliant either, but then this isn't a high-end, brilliantly treated studio. This is our little TV studio thing that we're using. And indeed, what the Trinnov is resulting in. Now, it's really flat and really good, but there's some weird stuff going on down here. But not to worry. Now, what I like to do when and this is a really good top tip as well, is go into Optimizer, Target Curves, manage both speakers, and then I like to draw in a target curve here, and I like to filter off the low end, because we don't want my speakers here to try to produce 10 Hertz or 20 Hertz really. So if we get them to filter off maybe from 30 Hertz, that would be more appropriate for these speakers, so I can get a good flat response down to that kind of an area. And I'll just hit apply now, and the Trinnov is going to recalculate that. Done. So now if I go back to graphs, you can see this is a little bit more uniform now and filtered off. So I guess now is the time to go ahead and have a listen and see how it actually comes out. So what we have here, you'll see they're very similar in characteristic, with the kind of bumps and notches in the room and this low end here around 100 Hertz. Very much a similar feature coming on here. The scales are a bit different, so they do look kind of different, but you'll see there's a lot of similarities in both of them. So that says to me that, knowing the trust I have already in the Trinnov system, that the ARC 4 system does seem to measure pretty well, surprisingly well. So that's a really good thing. The proof's in the pudding though, of course, once you look at what the correction is doing, and obviously we can only go by what this is saying. The Trinnov clearly does a more brutal and probably more accurate correction as well, showing much flatter overall. Now, given that there is a significant price difference, in fact I could buy 10 ARC Studios for the price of one Trinnov Nova, that to me is mighty impressive. So we've had a good listen. I think the result is that, let's face it, if you've got £5,000 to £10,000 speakers in your studio, the Trinnov is going to be for you. It's absolutely bang on. The mid-range is incredible. It really corrects for everything that seems to be wrong in even this relatively bad room. And And when you consider the price of the ARC compared to the Trinnov, you know, the ARC really punches high. It's so good, it's so much bang for buck. It's going to tighten up your low end, it's going to give you so much more clarity and detail in the mids and highs. Absolute bargain, go and get one. If your speakers are £5,000 to £10,000, they deserve the best, and you probably want the best, so the Trinnov will be for you in that case.